Good evening and welcome to the May 27th, 2015 business meeting of the Richmond Community Schools Board of School Trustees. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And now we are ready for our statement of mission.
And I would be happy to read that. Richmond Community Schools guide students on pathways of learning to a future of limitless possibilities.
Thank you, Susie. And now our vision statement.
Richmond Community Schools, a community nurturing mind, body, and spirit to prepare students for lives of choice, purpose, and service.
Thank you, Kelly. Now we're ready to celebrate the joy of learning.
And we are celebrating today our showcase video, and that will be our college and career readiness. Hensley, Polkmeek, actually I believe Polkmeek could not be here, is that right?
Okay. Yes, that is right.
Okay, and is Mr. Hensley here?
Mr. Wedlow's here. He's interviewed inside the interview, so if you want to ask him any questions, he can also help.
Fantastic. Okay, so we'll do the video and go from there? Okay.
We have so many opportunities for students. This year we offered 13 AP courses. We had 177 kids test. We gave over 306 exams. And that is up from the previous 3 years, in some part due to the grant, but also mostly due to the efforts of our AP teachers. We also have a unbelievable number of dual credits. We're actually offering additional dual credits next year that we have not before. That will include a dual credit U.S. history class, which will be taught by Mr. Jay Lee. We also offer speech and advanced composition through IU, so we have lots of exciting classes on board.
At Richmond High School, the Career Center offers 18 different programs. We have classes that take place on campus and off campus. We have classes at Ivy Tech, PJ's Cosmetology. We also have a partnership with the Richmond Fire Department for fire and rescue, and next year we're starting EMT, as well as the programs we have here on campus through our business program, through our trades program, through our Project Lead the Way engineering and biomed. We have a cadet teaching program. We have numerous opportunities for our students to be a part of, and the majority of our classes are also dual credit through Ivy Tech Community College or Vincennes University. We have some foundation courses starting as low as the 9th grade, intro classes in the 10th grade, but the bulk of our courses are their junior and senior year, so they have to make sure they get all their credits and stay on track their freshman and sophomore year. And when we tour all the 8th graders in the district during the end of their 8th grade year, we talk about staying on track so you can, because you're going to spend half your day with us your junior and senior years.
So 2 years ago, we received a grant from Notre Dame. And the focus of that grant is to encourage kids who may not always choose to take AP to take AP. And the numbers that we are pulling in terms of just the number of kids that are taking the program, the grant is working. That doesn't mean that we stopped. And obviously the focus is still to continue to include more kids and to encourage more kids and to find more kids.
They've actually filled out an application just like any other student does, is that when they're meeting with their counselor, that is one of the requests they can make. I would like to be in one of these programs. We do look at GPA, we look at attendance, we look if they've passed ECA.
Fix It Thursday is an opportunity for those students to get the assistance that they need, the support that they need. I typically have some Earlham students stop by and provide some tutoring. I've reached out to some of our RHS staff to stop by during their prep to provide, you know, some support, some assistance, some encouragement. They'll stop down just to show the kids some love, and they get a chance to see that the kids are trying. And a lot of times when the teachers see that the kids are trying, they're more, you know, more apt to kind of meet them halfway and maybe show some leniency on late work and missing assignments. My job is to take all excuses away, you know, be a liaison for Richmond High School and Ivy Tech and all of our other programs, and, you know, just make sure our kids are successful.
I can't imagine that anybody in Wayne County wouldn't see that Richmond High School has the absolute most to offer in terms of dual credit college and career readiness.
I agree.
Any questions for Mr. Wedlow, who seems to be the sole representative from the group at the high school, other than, well, Ray's there somewhere, I'm sure. Any questions?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. What do you see as next?
Well, I think the next level is to make sure our seniors have an opportunity when they graduate. We want to make sure that we target all of our students that either they're going to college, the military. In fact, this Friday I'm taking 14 students over the Primex into Mosey's. We're going to do facility tours. Their hiring managers will talk to them about job opportunities, and we're going to look to make sure we have placement for all of our senior students.
That's wonderful. Do we keep that data to know how our students are faring as far as once they get into whatever program after high school, and they get jobs and so forth?
Well, this past fall, I started compiling data based upon our certified nursing assistants, our cosmetology students, and many of our machinist students, as well as our automotive kids. And the numbers look pretty good, but we want to do a little bit better. And we'll continue to track those numbers. And most of my seniors, I give my cell phone number, and I'm readily available for them all throughout the summer. And you know, once they go through our program, they're with me for life, and I'm with them for life. So they always have a mentor or a college career advisor.
Great. Anybody else? Well, thank you. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you very
We
much. Thanks for having me.
appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, next, we have our Administrator, Teacher, Support Person of the Year, and Friends of Education recognition. And so I know that, starting with our Administrator of the Year, Mark Millis. Mark is here. Stand up and we'll decide what questions. And what about Amix? Josh, why don't you come up and join the elite here as well?
The elite.
We only were able to see you on the video.
Friends of Education are here too.
Yes, we have, okay. Then Friends of Education, we have Tyler Ham, and we have Rima. Right. Okay, there's, what about Support Person of the Year? Do we have Martisha Armstead?
Martika's not here.
She's not here. Martika is missing. Okay, wonderful.
Hi, Josh.
We met you, had a chance to at least meet you on our celebration day, except Josh, of course, and he was away in another state. But we were really celebrating. It was really amazing at the recognition you received that day and the praise and the love.
It was absolutely, absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Well, so how has your lives changed? Honor has been bestowed upon you.
Any big movie contract.
Come to the mic and,
Surely somebody,
come on, Josh.
My life hasn't changed dramatically other than the overwhelming support that we got in our program. And I've tried as much as I could to make it not about me, because it's not about me. It's about the program and the support people that we have in our program, and of course our students. So we've shared that love with the students and the staff that surrounds me and what we do in the alternative program. So just a celebration of recognition of what we're doing is good stuff, and the students are continuing to accomplish great things.
Well, Tyler and Rima, we need more great support persons of education like you. Would either of you want to share? What causes you just to come and do this? We'll try to find others that want to do it as well.
Come on, Tyler.
Well, I mean, I guess it's just having gone through the school system here in Richmond and then going through college and graduating and starting in the business scene. You know, you look back to how did I get here? And
Yeah.
I tell like some of the kids that I work with or people that I've met with, you know, over the years that I wouldn't probably be doing some of the stuff I'm doing if it wasn't for some of the business teachers that I had in high school and stuff like that. And
What is your business? Tell them what your business is.
sorry, what was it?
Tell them what your business
Oh,
is.
I'm the owner of Nancy Knows, yes. And
Shameless plug.
we
Go
do
for it.
we do a lot of support to all the schools, even elementary, middle school, even and a lot with the high school. I know how tight it is, you know, with budgets and stuff, and they need all the support they can get, you know, with donations and different types of working together with projects, and discounts and stuff like that. So
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you, Tyler.
Rima?
Do they have family here with them?
Yeah. Any
I'm
comments for us?
just a grandmother, and I love kids, and I enjoy helping the schools out.
Nobody's just a grandmother. You are a member of one of the
Number
most
one
elite
job.
clubs ever.
But I volunteered at Charles when my granddaughter was there, and now that she's at Test, I volunteer there, do the PTO, and if I wasn't doing that, I'd be sitting at home on my butt, so.
I'm sure Miss Wolpe's tracking you right now, is she?
Waiting for you to move to the high school.
Yeah.
Do any of you have family or friends here? We would like for you to introduce them, please.
I got my granddaughter here.
Well-
Fantastic. Stand? Yeah.
My stunning wife is also with us. Tracy.
Stunning wife. Nice move.
Please come forward.
Please come forward. She listens to you a lot better than she does.
We noticed, yeah.
What happens when you're stunning?
So what's your name, hun?
Ashley.
Ashley. And so, do you go to Test?
Yeah.
So you get to see your grandma there a lot, huh?
Yeah.
You like that?
Eyes.
Sometimes.
I can't get away with a lot though, so.
Well, that's probably best. And would you please introduce yourself?
I'm Tracy Amix, Josh's wife.
And we know that you're the backbone behind Josh.
Amen.
I say that. He's a great person, very humble, very good with students, and has a way with them that many others don't have, and a very honorable quality, and very proud of him.
Yes, you should be.
Thank
We
you.
agree with you.
Very awesome. What about Mr. Millis?
I know, now we're going to pick on Mr. Millis.
Well, I want to congratulate everybody that's being recognized this evening, and it's nice to be recognized and appreciated. And each year you do this, I think everybody feels a little better. And I did have people make nice comments, and so that was nice. I don't have any family, and maybe I have a few friends left. Maybe.
We're here for you.
I think the people that help you and support you every day, that's what it kind of meant to me, really. Debbie Baker has been my administrative assistant for 5 years, and she handles the phone and the concerns that come in, and she's done a lot of the great computer work on our reorganizations, and also our most recently with our neighborhood school concept and finding out where people live. So those persons, Allie, on a daily basis, Pam Lips, Phyllis Jenkins, Dr. Parker and I work together on curriculum matters. So all those persons go into, I hope, the recognition.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I don't want to embarrass Mark, but I would say that had he not been here to help when I came, and I would have had to tackle some of those early morning, I might have been the shortest interim superintendent.
Well, and again, Glenn Slifer and I became talk mates there about 4:45 on some days, and there was one day in particular where it was pretty cold out, and we decided to go because I was getting concerned about high school commencement. So the fact that we won't be here tomorrow with another day of school, we made it through that really cold day. So.
I'm sure that Glenn would appreciate those phone calls once you settle into retirement.
Somebody else can do that.
Well, thank you all for what you do for our students and our staff, Richmond Community Schools. You are appreciated.
And Josh's life is going to change starting tomorrow for a while. He's got to get ready for state.
Oh, it's that portfolio time.
Yeah.
I would like to say too that none of us could do what we do without you folks.
Yes.
You know, you guys are the workers kind of behind the scenes and in the front lines in the newspapers and all that stuff. So we appreciate the things that you guys do for our students and for us as educators as well.
I'd like to say, get a little credit for this now. I met Josh about the second week I was here, and Josh and I had actually a talk about his career and possible options that he would have down the road. He declined to show any interest in a superintendency.
I beat him in that classroom.
But I did immediately see that Josh has tremendous potential to do a lot, and you will, in whatever you choose to do. Again, I want to add, we could never minimize the work of volunteers. You know, I had a chance to be at the volunteer banquet, and I think that was one of the most inspiring things for me. In fact, I came away saying, I have to find a time to volunteer, because I can just sense how valuable it is. So I have to start working so I can volunteer. But I do admire you tremendously for that work.
Well, thank you all very much, and thanks for being here.
Okay, now we're moving to sudden cardiac arrest. And
On the last day of school.
And I definitely do not want to minimize this, because this is one of those things that comes to Barb. In fact, we joke with Barb when anything is coming from the health department about where it goes. But Barb is the one that takes these regulations that come through and work with them to make sure that we actualize and bring them live in our schools. So Barb and Frank.
Thank you, Dr. Poindexter. A couple of years ago, we came to you from the athletic department concerning the concussion law, which came from our legislature and with the focus from national media on national professional athletes. So this year in the legislature, they passed it's called the New Sudden Cardiac Arrest Law. It's Indiana Code 20-34-8, and this will take effect July the 1st, 2015. And it is similar to the concussion law, and that there'll be information sheets, and I've worked with Mr. Carr, our athletic director at the high school, that will be distributed to the student athletes, to the parents, and to the coaches. And of course, we all know that athletes, they can be in perfect health, then something can happen. It says that the sudden cardiac arrest can occur even in athletes who are in peak shape, and approximately 500 deaths have been attributed to the sudden cardiac arrest in athletes each year in the United States. And the cardiac arrest can affect all levels of athletes in all sports in all ages. So this is not just a high school law. And so I've asked Mr. Frank Carr to come this evening and explain to you the different information that's been developed and will be distributed to the parents and the coaches and the student athletes. Mr. Carr?
Thank you. I've been in athletics for a long time, and most of it was at the collegiate level. Had an opportunity as a member of the, when I was an athletic director at Earlham, to be asked to be a member of the National Football Rules Committee. And from being on the Rules Committee, I was then asked to be a part of a committee that was the Committee on Competitive Safeguards and Safety in Sport. And that committee, that subcommittee, was dealing with issues of health and safety for the athletes at the college level. And from, as Barb mentioned, the issues of concussion, but all the other issues that could impact the healthiest of our young people. And this law, I think, is another step toward the health and safety of the people at the high school and the middle school intermediate levels. A few things that I'd like to point out to you tonight. First of all of our athletes at the high school, no, I'm going to step back. The IHSAA governs senior high schools. The rules of the IHSAA do not filter down into intermediate schools. This law covers senior high school and intermediate school. So this is going to be our first real connection with middle school or intermediate school athletes. And in talking with the principals to try to figure out a plan of how we are going to get this information to their athletes. We know that the first year may provide information that as we work in the second year will be better. But we plan to have in the fall with volleyball and cross country and football in the intermediate schools, parent meetings with the coaches, the principals, and myself, or a representative from our department, to go and talk to those parents about this law and about this information. You may have received in your packet that there is a form that the student athlete and the sport that they are in, and the signature of the student athlete and the signature of the parent has to be on file, that they'd read the information and they understand the possible impacts of their participation in sport. That is what we will do with the intermediate school students and their families. For high school athletes, in order to participate, before anybody can practice, they have to go through a packet that they come to the athletic office and fill out the following and get the following information done: an emergency medical form, medical history form, a physical form filled out by the doctor, a consent and release form, a Reed sports medicine form, demographics form, and now the concussion/cardiac arrest form. That's all contained in this packet that each of our student athletes pick up and fill out over the summer. So the fall athletes will need to turn this in before they're allowed to practice and participate. Our coaches, we have a coach's notebook, a coach's that has expectations, regulations, information about their positions as coaches in our department, and we will include the information forms that are provided to describe the fact sheets, the information that coaches need to know as they relate to sudden cardiac arrest. And finally, there are two forms that you have seen. Our athletic trainer, if a coach sees any of these symptoms of sudden cardiac arrest, we ask that coach, if it's here, to come with our athletic trainer to fill out this form. It is given to the parents. They acknowledge that. And then in order for the student to be able to participate again, the parent needs to fill out this form, and we need to be signed off by a doctor. So that we're going a little bit above the law. The law just says that parents are to give permission, but we feel it's important that Dr. Carr is not releasing my son back into play. We think it's more important than that. So that's a little bit about how we are going to administer and make sure that all of our families and all of our coaches and all of our students are aware and understand some of the issues related to this sudden cardiac arrest. So if you have any
questions, Mr. Carr?
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Sounds like it's pretty well organized. Okay, we are ready for our first public commentary.
We have Rod Weiss.
Good evening. This is getting to be habit forming for me, but this is on a different note. Name is Rod Weiss, and I'm here tonight to talk about our tennis courts. Well, let me scratch out that word. That's not a good word to say publicly. They're in deplorable shape. And what I'm afraid of is, we've had a very good tennis program, even when I was in high school. Gary Eagles, when he was the coach, I don't know if there was another interim between that and then Rusty Hollingsworth, the late Rusty Hollingsworth. Now we have Randy. And, the tennis teams, in the last few years have really been good. And they're presently good. And in the future, because of what I see. And I'm not saying that just because both my boys play tennis. Okay, I am. But anyhow, and I kind of confirmed this. I don't want us to lose the sectional or the regional due to the shape of our tennis courts. Last year at the regional, I helped, blow dry them off because it rained so much, and it actually blew one of the sidelines off. So that's a huge court advantage for our kids. And even I talked to Mrs. Wolpe earlier today, and I think she kind of agreed, even though she's on the HSA board of directors. Nothing's guaranteed. So with that in mind, last fall, after the season was ended for the boys, I contacted Ron Mays, and he and I met over there, and we discussed a number of things. And there is some underlying issues, but I know that we're going to be going for a huge bond issue in 5 or 6 years that will redo a number of things over at the high school and also in the athletics. But in the meantime, we have to do something to our tennis courts. We don't have the money, as one gentleman said. Everybody's strapped. So with talking with Ron Mays, I gave him a couple names of some companies. He did his research also. And he was able to work something out. And he was able to talk to Mr. Carr and or Coach Hollingsworth for him to move his tennis camps so we can get those courts taken care of. Mrs. Morgensen, would you like to come up, please? So with all that involved, my wife and I, she'll say I made the decision, but it's a joint decision because Randy has done a remarkable job with our two boys, who now one is a senior since the school year's done, and the other one is now a sophomore. So what I'd like to do is we want to take care of the courts. And again, like I said, Mr. Mays has been very instrumental in getting the timeline and getting the company to come in on a certain date, and Coach Hollingsworth to move his camps. So with that all in mind, I want to present you with a check for, the approximate is like $32,280, but it's for $33,000 for the tennis courts. Any extras go into the tennis sports program for Coach Hollingsworth to use as he sees fit. He has done so much for us for past and present.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Very generous,
You're welcome.
even though it's not made out to me.
Sorry, I told you I'd take you out for lunch. Any questions? No, I'm just joking.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else have donations for us?
The floor is open.
Maybe give them 6 minutes.
I did wear red tonight, not purple.
Nice.
We appreciate that. You're doing well, you're doing well. Okay, we move now to
Okay, yes.
consent agenda. And I would note that we have an addendum to the human resource packet that's in your file. Under consent agenda, you have accounts payable and the filing of the monthly financials along with approval of minutes.
Okay, I need a motion. Motion made by Susie Hively,
I'll second.
seconded by Jeff Slifer. Comments or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. I think that we have,
We do have.
do you want to,
Yes, we have Mr. Wedlow in the audience, and I think it would be certainly appropriate, as the new head coach of Richmond High School, that we would have you come up perhaps and
do a
speak.
cheer? Oh, you don't cheer. Show us a play, do something.
Got some erasable markers and
We can get them.
Drops and plants.
Awesome.
Congratulations.
First of all, I'd like to thank the Lord, my Savior, and I give it up all to Him. And I wouldn't be in this position without Him keeping His hands around me, keeping His angels on my shoulder, and keep the devil away. And so, with that said,
Oh, watch that.
But not the red devil.
the wrong devil. With that said, I stand before each and every one of you. The great thing about this thing is, about this opportunity is, I've gotten to connect with each and every one of you on some level through my work as a career pathway specialist or as a site coordinator with communities and schools, which I have now joined as a board member with communities and schools. Been a board member since July, and so, you know, I'm trying to stay vested in the community. I came to Earlham in 1991, and Richmond is my home now. I mean, this is my home, and I'm humbled and I'm honored, and I will assure you all that Richmond basketball will stay relevant. We will continue to be a top 20 program throughout the state. We will run our program the right way, and we will work with our local Richmond community kids in our community. After school today, we had a meeting a team meeting. It was one of the first things. It's kind of hard to be in the position that I've been in over the last few weeks, and but I prayed and prayed and prayed. My wife, Tawanda, my son, Ricky, and my daughter Ashley, they've been my rock. They've supported me. I've had days when I couldn't sleep. It's been a hard deal. But in my heart, I knew that I love this community. I love Richmond High School. I love these kids, and it's reciprocated. I feel the love when I walk through the school. No matter what's going on in my life, when I walk in that building, it's on. It's on, and I have to be on for those kids. And if there's ever a moment when I'm not the Wedlow that they know, Wedlow, you okay? What's wrong? And so that's the love. And so with that said, Richmond basketball, this head coaching position is something that I take with pride, I accept with pride, and you know, I will do my best. There will not be a day go past where I will not focus on how I can make Richmond basketball better, how I can make our student athletes better, students and athletes, and we'll make sure these guys graduate. The basketball part is easy. I mean, the X's and O's, the basketball stuff, that's the easy part. Frank Carr, Miss Whoopi, Mr. Terrell, it's been great support thus far, and I'll continue to make sure I surround myself around the right staff, and I'll make sure we get the right
young men out there to represent our school. And I thank you again. Thank you very much.
So what's, are you having any basketball camps this summer?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I may want to, you know.
One of the
brush
first.
up on my skills.
Yeah, one of the first things we talked about was meeting with the team. And the second order of business, which we're behind about a month and a half in terms of our season, but we have time to catch up. And we've decided that we're going to run a 3-day camp. The last week, I think June 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. That'll be a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We don't want to conflict with summer school, so we're looking at doing an afternoon. And the information, we'll start working on getting the camp information out by the first next week. And we'll shake the bushes, and we'll make sure that all the young people know about the program. We're going to focus on grades 2 through incoming 8th graders. And we'll get a good staff in place to run this program. It'll be a free camp, and we'll make sure we don't turn anybody away. And we'll make sure we get some good sponsorship from our community, and we'll get this thing going. So I'm just excited, and I'm humbled, and you know, my commitment is that I'll be a good leader for our young men. I'll continue to do what I do in the school. Nothing will change, and I'll just have to, you know, instead of just being Coach Wetlow from maybe September through March, I know it's a 12-month job, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week now. So I'm ready to take myself to the next level, and I'll continue to work hard.
Great, great. I would like to ask that you bring your family up.
Sure. Miss Wedlow and little Ricky.
Little Rick.
I'm Rick, and he's Ricky for now, and so
Okay.
he'll be an incoming 8th grader.
Can't really call him Little Rick anymore.
I know. So I just hope he keeps growing, and you know, this group, I've coached a group of Ricky's classmates since 3rd grade, and they're coming into 8th grade. So this is a group you guys should look forward to seeing. I know there's, you know, but again, my wife, Tawanda Wedlow, she's an RN at Reed Hospital. She's also a faculty member. She teaches CNA class at Ivy Tech. And Ricky, I'm really proud of him, not only on the basketball court. He is growing and doing some amazing things. Damon Bailey, I don't know if you guys know Damon Bailey and I have gotten really close over the last year.
Yes.
His son and Ricky, they compete frequently over on our AAU tour, and they're good competitors, and we're looking forward to seeing them grow. And he's doing a great job in the classroom. Straight A's still. All right. So make sure we're keeping them straight A's, and so we're humbled, and this is my family, and they have my back, and I'll do everything I can to represent the Wedlow family.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, with passion and heart like that, we have nothing but good things to look forward to.
That's right.
That's right. And I've heard so many good things about him off the basketball court too, and what a great role model he is. So I'm excited for Richmond.
Good choice. Great choice. Okay, we are ready for our action items.
Yes, and we have donations, and Karen usually gives us a fairly short rundown of donations. And would you do that this evening, Karen?
I will. Tonight it's going to take a little longer than the usual because we have
Well, that's
our
good.
annual donations for scholarships, and this is something that we cannot say thank you enough to our local community, to the donors that have participated in order for our high school seniors to receive dollars to go into their future. So I will proceed as quickly as possible, but please bear with me. It's going to take just a minute. We want to thank West End Bank for a donation for Charles students to attend Flat Rock YMCA camp, and that amounted to $4,234. We also wanted to thank Belden and Saver Systems for donations to this summer's STEM camp, and those donations totaled $1,000.
Career education scholarships totaled $5,700 this year, and we want to thank Myers Mechanical, Richmond Casting, Friends Fellowship Community, Holland Colors, Natco Credit Union, Richmond Baking Company, Manpower of Richmond, McDonald's, First Bank Richmond, J.M. Hutton, Hoppy Jewelers, Bridgemax, David and Carla Stidham, David Brown Appraisal, and Primex Plastics for those donations. Penny Shank and Charles School faculty and staff donated $75 in total to the Charles Michael Morgeson Memorial Scholarship. Terry Warfield and family donated to the Donald Warfield Memorial Scholarship in the amount of $2,000. We had $200 in donations to the Elizabeth Thompson Memorial Scholarship from Gordon and Mary Ann Thompson and Ray Wolpe. We also had a $100 donation to the Larry Spicer Scholarship by Chris and Mike LaPresti. Thomas and Faye Price Memorial Scholarship in the amount of $50 from Barbara Short. The Tim Lebo Special Education Memorial Scholarship received $190 in donations from Jerry and Judith Ash and John and Diane Lebo. We received $500 for the Kiwanis Golden K Scholarship from the Kiwanis Golden K. We also received $300 anonymously for the Richmond High School Senior Award. We have a tremendous amount of support that we received for the boys basketball team as they moved to semi-state and regionals this year, and we want to thank the community for donations of $8,553. We received donations from Phillips Drugs, West End Bank, the Leland Legacy, First Bank Richmond, Eyes 2020 Inc., Harrington Hoke Insurance, Wayne Bank and Trust, B&F Plastics, David and Carla Stidham, Amy and Jim Keene, Philip and Jacqueline Scott, Boston Beaver Cleaning Cross and Chittister, Interconnections Counseling, L. Oscar Group, Carol Armstrong, Richard Boddicker, Gary and Lois Brown, Ken Harlan, Victoria Wilson, Rebecca Harper, Rick and Kathy Parker, Kyle and Beth Ingram, Barb Maley, David Brown Appraisal Services, Tammy Crow, James and Barb Bergdahl, Sharon Myers, Gwendolyn Schroeder, John and Patricia Heine, Direcco Internet Broadcasting LLC, Chris and Sheila Hobbs, Richard and Kendra Bryant, and a tremendous amount of anonymous donations. We also received a donation for the Boys Semi-State Fund from Zinies, Inc. The boys golf team at the high school received $200 in donations from Lions Insurance and Williams Mowing Service. First Bank Richmond donated $1,000 to the RCS Mentoring Program. We also received a number of donations for the Proudly Presenting series at Civic Hall, and those donations totaled $2,220, and they were from Elaine Barnes, Alan and Phyllis Beach, Jack and Barb Bealfus, Richard Boddicker, Dale and Elsie Bragg, Anthony and Dorothy Broadwell, Ron and Rhonda Christopher, Philip and Lyndon Dennis, Gerald and Gail Dorna, Don and Sue Duke, Vance and Ann England, Grover and Dorothy Henthorne, Tom and Ann Herman, Terrell and Nancy LaFuse, and also an anonymous donation was received. So in total this month, we received $26,322 in donations, and we just cannot say thank you enough. So I ask the board that you accept these donations and recommend their approval.
Okay, I need a motion. Motion made by Suzanne Darengowski, seconded by Dixie Robinson. Comments or questions? Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, yep.
Yes.
Wow.
Okay, next we have, okay, go
All
ahead.
those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Now we go.
Yeah.
Next, we have the rental agreement with the Japanese language school, and I do want to thank Karen. She really worked hard with the organizers of the school, and they were concerned about not being able to make the payment and whatever, so she worked with them, was very patient, and we have a rental agreement, and everyone's satisfied.
Yes. Okay, I need a motion.
Make that motion, but I would also,
Make the motion, and
If
we'll
I-
get a second, and then you can
Then I can
comment.
comment.
Yeah, if that's okay.
I'll second.
Okay, motion made by Susie Hively, seconded by Kelly Baumgartner. Comments or questions?
I just would like to say, having been involved at the host school for the Japanese language program, Saturday program, I've always been very impressed with their program, and I'm happy to see that our relationship continues with them and that we can support that because it does provide important transition for Japanese students coming to the United States.
And it's not been the intent to make money. It's been simply to cover the expenses. There, that's been it. Okay.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Okay. We now have the RHS handbook, and also, it doesn't say it on our front sheet, but I noticed the Charles handbook was also included. Did you have a chance to look at the Charles as well?
Yep. Was that in your packets,
Did-
Charles?
No.
No, I think we pulled it because there was some things that we needed to still correct on that one.
Okay, it was still in my packet.
Okay, so we'll bring that back.
Okay, thank
So
you.
just the RHS.
Just the
Okay.
Okay.
RHS one.
Okay, I need a motion for the handbook. Jeff Slifer makes the motion, Kelly Baumgartner seconds. Comments or questions?
I just have one quick question. In the past, the handbook has been included in the agenda that students receive to keep track of their homework and everything. And I always thought that was such a good idea. Is that going to be the case in the future?
Yeah, it's still a calendar.
Yes.
Yes, it's a planner for them.
I think that's a wonderful thing because they have to carry it around with them every day.
Kelly?
So this is for RHS, and you said there's one for Charles. Does each school have their own handbook, or that?
Well, we have the district handbook, which you'll be getting in the next month as well.
Right.
But there are some schools that like to have their own handbook for their own communication efforts with their parents. Unloading and where you pick up the kids and just some things that they talk about specific to their building. But ultimately, the district guidelines and handbook supersede or they go underneath our district-wide handbook.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Okay, then we have updated policies, 5.04, second reading, and are asking for approval for adoption.
Motion made by Dixie Robinson, seconded by Kelly Baumgartner. Comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
5.05, we have updated policies, first reading.
Motion made by Jeff Slifer, seconded by Susie Hively. Comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Moving right along to food service bid recommendations, and Mr. Tidrow brings those bids for your approval.
Do you want to say anything? Okay.
It's all in.
Good. We're moving right on. I need a motion, please, for the food service bids. Motion made by Kelly Baumgartner, seconded by Suzanne Darengowski. Comments or questions?
I just always appreciate the work that goes into that. I'm sure with all the if the public understood the number of lines and how involved it is, they would be surprised.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Next, we come to an important curriculum item on the agenda, and that's a social studies adoption, and that's Mr. Mark Millis.
We would ask the board to approve the textbooks that are listed, and we work in a 6-year cycle. Try to stay on that, although the state has kind of moved away from that mandate. But for our financial reasons, we try to do that. We had a really good committee to work on that. We broke into levels then. Each intermediate had a group of teachers, and the high school department worked on adoption. And we would recommend the list as provided. Many of those, Pearson, feel like they've upped their game on the digital curriculum that goes along with the books. So there will be, for now, textbooks for students, and then as we infuse the curriculum and the digital side, the curriculum will be available. Also, we think it's important for the literacy standards, and we feel like Pearson had some really good features to that. So we would ask that the board approve the list, and also would recognize those persons that worked on the committee, appreciate their work, especially Mr. Lee at the high school did a really nice job helping with that, and also had some good support from the teachers at the elementary level. This year we are adopting third and fourth, and hopefully there'll be some nice things with the community and also working with the museum. And then fourth grade Indiana history, and students will receive it's a softbound text for Indiana history, and I think the teachers are excited about that. So we haven't had that for a while.
Okay, I need a motion. A motion made by Dixie Robinson, seconded by Susie Hively. Comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Okay, we're moving to the college preparatory mathematics adoption. I know that Mark has worked for some time and has been discussing this with our principal at Hibbard, and is bringing a recommendation for adoption of materials this evening.
When we adopted math 4 years ago, the big buzzword was Core 40, and or the Common Core curriculum, and obviously we've sort of moved from that somewhat with the new Indiana standards. But at that time, we had Logos program at Test, and early college was at Dennis, and now obviously we have both those programs at Hibbard. And I think what they have found is the articulation and continuation for skills for students that are an accelerated pace just has not met the needs with the current textbooks. The high school has been using CPM math for a number of years, and so Celeste Johnson also helped on this with Mrs. Gibbs, and Sam Thomas as well, and he's here tonight to answer any questions, but they just felt like we needed to provide a more challenging format for those students, and they felt that CPM would do that. I let them know that we're going to have to use these for 7 years since we're a little bit early in adopting, and I think it will take care of that need. Hibbard presents some challenges at times because we sort of adopt for all students, and then at the same time we also have students that are at a more accelerated pace. So I would ask that we adopt the textbooks. There are 4 textbooks. Actually, 1 year, 2 of those textbooks will be used to compress, and then in the 8th grade will be the algebra, which will then feed into the high school. And those students who meet that curriculum and go into algebra will be well prepared. This coming year, we will not have students taking the Algebra 1 test for an ECA. That will come later now. So it's a little bit going to be a little bit different focus in the future, but hopefully this will have kids ready to move then into Algebra 2 and geometry. And so I'd recommend that we adopt this series for early college and Logos students at Hibbard.
Okay, I need a motion. Motion made by Jeff Slifer, seconded by Susie Hively. Comments or questions?
So just for, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Just for clarity, are we trying to get compacted so for those students and those 2 programs that we get them 1 or 2 extra years of math, or how are we compacting them?
Come forward, Sam. Sure.
The CPM curriculum starts at 6th grade and goes through calculus. It was developed like in 1989. And they say that starting in 6th grade, there are 3 courses that precede algebra that normally is taken at 9th grade. So the goal is that all students at Hibbard are going to complete algebra successfully in their 8th grade year. There's some research done from the National Science Foundation that just says kids that end up in the STEM areas as far as a career are those who complete algebra in 8th grade. It seems to be a big emphasis. So I feel like we have an obligation, and obviously Gwen Gibbs feels the same way, and the staff at Hibbard, to try to get as many kids successfully through algebra by 8th grade that we can. And this program, I think, is just ideal to do that with. So
So if they take algebra at 8th grade at Denison Test, what are they doing? I mean, what's the difference?
So the students that are taking algebra at Denison Test are on that same track to go into advanced courses at the high school and take AP courses. The algebra course, actually, let me just back up and say at the high school, the CPM curriculum used there is the curriculum they use in all their AP courses and all their advanced courses. So the fact that it goes all the way down to 6th grade and that you can get students into that course, the style of that course early, and then complete that in 8th grade is something that is something we can uniquely offer, I think, at Hibbard. The reading ability of this text is relatively high.
Right, that's right. I heard that.
6th grade students typically read from a range of 665 lexile to 1,000, and that first course is at 980 lexile. So you really need to have students who have a high ability in literacy as well, and reading. And we think we're choosing the right kids for this program at Hibbard.
Thank you, Sam, and thank you for your work on this, and thank you for being here tonight.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Now we're ready for reports, discussion topics.
And the first one is transportation, and I first should really thank the task group. I think we called them a task group this time, that gave it their very best and very quickly. Probably about the day after our last board meeting, we met, and they said, let's take these and really work on them and crank them out. So we had Mr. Tidrow, Ms. Scalf, Ms. Bergdahl. From special ed, Dr. Parker took on as the management of the group, cracking the whip. Miss DeHollis, I just realized that's like Misty DeHollis, right? And then, of course, if they needed a consultant, they called in Mr. Millis, if they needed an arbiter of something along the way. But they cranked this out almost in, a day and a half. They met in a room and they just kind of stayed there until they worked through these. So, again, I just want to tell you what the priority that this was at the time. Let's go, let's look at it, let's do our very best and take it to the board. So I think you have our very best first try.
Comments, questions? Dixie?
I had just 2 things.
Okay.
Under the administrative guidelines for bus driver procedures, and it was number 4 under B, which was specific performance abilities. I just had a little trouble deal with behavioral characteristics of riders. And I don't know if we could just change the wording a little bit. I mean, it just sounded like deal with it. So,
Respond to.
like recognize or
Yeah.
attend to, or,
Respond appropriately to.
yeah, it was just,
Respond
it was
to.
the word, I guess just when I read it, it
Yeah,
just
that
kind of
was just the old policy. We just
sounded
missed it. Did you
harsh.
miss that part? Respond appropriately to.
Respond.
And then under 8660,
Okay.
which was transporting students by private vehicle. And it said it's recommended that another adult accompany the building principal during the transportation of the student. And in today's world, I would just wish that we would say it's mandatory.
Well, we talked about that, but at the elementary level, when there may not be anyone else available, if you have
Yeah,
a sick
that's
child
true.
and you need to take them home because parents don't have transportation, we didn't want to handcuff ourselves, so we couldn't function. So, I think it, you
But
know,
we did talk about it at the middle level and at the high school level that
I just think that's
to have an extra
really,
person with you when they transport.
Well, I think that's something that, you know, the board can certainly look at. These are just considerations for you, and if you feel strongly, because we know the liability that can happen. Having
it was,
student with
that was just
one adult.
a concern.
Okay, any other comments? Suzanne?
On the guidelines for 8600, one of the pieces says, if I can get back to it here,
where are you on?
the administrative guidelines. I think is surveillance in that part? The video? Yeah, student C, under C. One of the things that it says is, establish a procedure whereby no one observes a video without the prior authorization of the building principal. If the driver is responsible for, and the transportation company is managing daily behavior, is that realistic, I guess, is my question.
Was that a change, or did you leave it as it was?
That was what was in there, but I think the thinking was is that obviously the drivers would be able to view those, but a parent or
Correct, right, and that's definitely practice. I guess I was just saying, if the transportation company would need to get approval every time, that would probably be.
No, we see it as, we don't want the parent calling you guys.
Oh, and
We
they
want them
do.
to contact the school
I
or
see what
the
you're saying.
district
I
level
see
to
what you're
get that permission, because we
Okay.
may not.
No, I,
Straight through
three,
the
I understand, no one, okay, you're thinking anyone besides transportation.
Besides the.
I
right.
gotcha, okay. I read that a little more, literally, I apologize for that.
We could put with the exception of the subcontracting or something.
I think that can be a part of the student transit contract. I don't think that has to be a part of the guidelines or policies. That can just
It's
be
fine. I
something
just wanted
that's
to
a
make
part
sure
of
it
the
wouldn't,
practices and
yeah,
the
okay.
protocols that are established in the contract.
Yeah, just didn't want them to contradict, because
Right.
that, while, and it does say that it's somewhere else, that's another comment about the principles and the behavior and that, but, the other one that might be technically difficult to do, and I think I understand why it was this way, probably because when it was actually videotapes, the idea of keeping the tapes for a year or whatever it says.
Well, we said they would be kept no longer than a year unless there were some sort of litigation. We would definitely want to keep them.
And so I'm thinking what its intent is that if a particular incident is pulled, that's the part you're talking about keeping? Okay.
Right,
Because on the daily basis, that rotates, but it's on like a 30-day cycle.
Right.
So if nothing comes up, that'll just cycle.
Delete it.
It'll
You
just
know.
record
records
over,
over.
basically.
What we changed was that it said it would not exceed the current school year, which would be today. If something happened today, tomorrow we wouldn't have.
Right.
And we
We
didn't want
wouldn't
that.
keep it.
And
so
anything
we wanted to
that's,
go one calendar year.
because currently, the way the technology works is if there's an incident, that clip is pulled and
Right.
preserved. So I just want to make sure that
Mm-hmm.
that was understood, because it isn't
That's good.
on the bus unit, not kept forever.
Right, it isn't kept on the bus, but I glanced at this, I wondered if maybe this didn't speak to the issue of having, I mean, I know from my own experience, I have a clip I was working with, and I would keep it on my desktop, and it,
That's
And I maybe need to be reminded maybe would have been good for me to think about, oh, I should get that off there. Now I'm finished with it.
Right, okay,
It should
that,
be
I
on-
understand that.
It should be stored in a safe location, which is
Right.
our NAS, which
Right.
student data is stored there, so you're right.
Okay, I think I understand that.
Jeff?
As I read through all of these, I kind of just soaked them in, and just, because I kind of wanted to get the feel for where everybody was at this. I guess two things I want to make sure is, as I look at, as we come back and take these to first reading, the policies, not the guidelines.
Right.
We're going to be fairly consistent, because communication is one of the things that I'm trying to look at. We're going to try to be consistent and use transportation dispatch office for the vendor. And every time we see the word transportation director, it's you.
Correct.
Okay, and I think that helps. The other thing that I noticed, and it's more safety related, in the past, we have had some discussions about how do we determine the walking distance to the school. And I noticed in some areas, we scratched out areas that had no sidewalks. I noticed that a couple other little things have changed on that. But it also leaves total discretion to bus stops to the dispatch office. So I didn't know if there was some,
But there, for the sidewalk issue, there's a lot of neighborhoods where we don't have sidewalks that
Right.
it's safe to walk on the road to get to a bus stop, cul-de-sacs and so forth. There's areas that may have sidewalks that aren't safe for the students to ride or to walk. So, but let's take, for example, Charles. If you're around the Charles School, there's not a lot of sidewalks, and that's where we would have a transportation pickup area, because there's some unsafe areas there. But other places that don't have sidewalks, maybe a cul-de-sac area, right now we have the kids walk to a bus stop and within that distance. So we don't, if we had a policy of no sidewalks, we'd be picking up a lot of kids door to door, so.
but I was unclear, who's the one that determines whether that area warrants the
Right
pick,
now,
yeah.
it's the
It's
transportation.
Totally the transportation department warrant is the
Right.
one that determines.
But there is an appeal, and there are many times that I've gone out there and checked things. I know my predecessor, Mr. Connington, had. Principals have gone out there and checked things to see if things are safe. I know Mrs. Darengowski has driven out there, Mr. Thomas, so.
Okay.
We don't want to have any situation where a student's not in a safe.
And I know that.
Right.
But when you try to look at the words,
Right.
sometimes it's difficult to put a policy in place that covers every situation.
Right.
And I just want to make sure that the parents know the process to go through. If they think they have an area that's unsafe, by all means, they have that.
Yeah, we've had situations where maybe it's not even safe for the bus to go down a cul-de-sac or an area to turn around in. So we've communicated with the parents and so forth if they could bring the kids up to a different area, because maybe it's a tight squeeze when you have cars parked along that cul-de-sac and you can't get a bus through there. So there's been times like that maybe they've asked the students to come out where the bus stop maybe naturally would be down in the cul-de-sac for that group of kids. Say, hey, we can't get the bus down there, so it is a per stop decision, really, so.
Are we, the walking distance, which is recommended to be changed, well, really, the only one to recommend to be changed is the high school from 1.5 to 0.7, which I agree with the distances. I don't have the problem with the distances. Is that going to be, is there a different distance or a different thought process? Or is that the same distance to use for bus stops? Because it really,
Yes, that
it
was the
doesn't
same
say, so it is, our bus stop would also be the same walking distance as a school.
Right. In the past, that's what we've done by practice, and that's what we'd continue, and we'd recommend that.
In the routing section, it does list those distances, and I don't know if maybe there needs to be some verbiage there that says sort of continuing
Well,
those.
I only bring that up because a walking distance of 0.7 miles to a bus stop that they have to be at least 5 minutes prior is different than being able to get to the school building and get in out of the elements and out of the cold weather and those types of things. And I understand, we also understand that it's the parent's responsibility to ensure the safety of the child to the bus stop. But, you know, this safety concern is, you know, at everybody's forefront, but I just want to make sure that, to me, a 0.7 walking distance to a bus stop that you have to stay, that you probably will be at for 10 minutes, unless an average of 10 minutes, maybe sometimes 5 minutes, sometimes, you know, if it's raining and that bus stop isn't an appropriate location, maybe we would need to have a shorter distance for a bus stop, so.
Well, also remember, we take in consideration any kind of safety concerns for that area. We don't want them crossing a major highway, you know, road that's busy, of course, a railroad and so forth, so that will tighten up a lot of those bus stops.
It's
so.
a maximum too, and my guess would be in group stop areas, that would be very seldom that it would be that far. Because you would place it in an appropriate spot, in the middle, where most could come to the center. So it's a guideline. I couldn't say everything. There's none of them that walk 0.7 to a stop, but I would find that
Right, but
unusual.
when we put the policy in place, if a child ends up having to walk 0.8 miles to get to a bus stop, then, you know, I'm just throwing it out there.
Right.
I mean, now's the time to have the discussion on it, so.
Exactly.
I want to go back to another thing you mentioned. We use the euphemism bus garage. We really trying to control that or contain that and say that what we use, transportation. Dispatch office for that facility out there that's managed right now by Sodroll and so forth. So that's why we included that, and then have a transportation director verbiage in there as well. So it would kind of help clarify that, not use that term bus garage. So try to clean that up.
Bus barn.
Or bus barn, I think it is, yeah.
Bus barn.
Or the garage.
Anybody else?
Did you catch the notes, Kathy?
We got them.
Okay.
We did, didn't we?
Thank you all for all of your work on this. This has been very useful.
We're ready to talk about Highland Heights now. At our last meeting, we brought Highland Heights up as a building that we were thinking that we would go through the same process that we had gone through with Garrison. And since that time, we have learned that there is still interest in Highland Heights by Reed Hospital. They're going through their own processes. And so we want to make it very clear that we do want to work with Reed Hospital. But at the same time, we know that it takes a while to go through the process of selling a building. And so with that being said, we can determine that we want to continue to move on with that process, knowing that we can stop that process at any time we choose, and knowing that we would not be voting until we have communicated appropriately with Reed Hospital. And so I guess we need to have that conversation to determine how we're going to move forward. So, anybody
Go ahead.
I would say it seems to me that at this, on this particular night, the future of Highland is unclear. We know that there's interest from the city, from the hospital, but yet we have a responsibility to not let grass grow under our feet too long with this building. And so it makes sense to me that we move forward with our process for selling it, as long as we wouldn't be spending additional money to do that process until some further time, some time down the road when we would have a chance to think about that again and see, have a better idea maybe of where the hospital is. But it's silly to not expedite both situations. Okay.
I have a question for Ron. Since it's a lengthy process and we have to go through two appraisals, and once we have an appraisal of a property, is there a limit on time that that appraisal is good for?
Not articulated in the statute. I think Highland Heights is considerably different than Garrison. Garrison, the time-consuming factor, frankly, was developing the specifications for demolition, for inviting proposals for that, or allowing contractors to inspect the site. I don't, unless I've missed it, I don't know that I've ever heard anybody suggest Highland Heights should be demolished.
Right.
So if we're just talking about a fair market sale, I mean, it would make sense to me that if the Reed Hospital interest will be determined by the end of summer, which I'm told it would be, say September 1, if we don't have definitive commitments by that time, then we could easily get the process completed by the no later than, say, the middle to end of October, which should be before your primary winter expense season. So I mean, I would have a hard time justifying $3,000 to $4,000 in appraisal fees until you have had an opportunity to gauge the level of Reed's interest.
So you're thinking it from the time that we decide to move forward with the property sale, you're thinking it could be completed within 2 months?
I mean, we can complete the bidding process, and knowing we have an acceptable bid within that time frame, and closing, a couple of weeks to close.
Because that was kind of where I guess I just looked at it from a mathematical point of view, and it's not that, if Reed is interested in it is not that I'm not willing to be in partnership with them, but mathematically, I just said it's cost as an average $4,000 a month. Now, I understand heating, it's going to change. So if it takes us 2 months, if we extend the process to get the appraisal by 2 months, I'm looking at an $8,000 cost to the school system if the potential tenant comes back and says they're not interested. So if we look at June and July, August, September, we're over $12,000 that if I use the average of $4,000 a month. So, whether that's true, that number, that's just how I approached it. So then if we looked at the cost of the appraisals, and we got 2 appraisals, and that appraisal cost $4,000 for both of those appraisals, and whether I'm high or low, you'll have to tell me. Then if I'm looking at how I'm gambling with taxpayers' money, which is what I'm looking at, if the tenant comes back and says they're not interested, then we've just saved ourselves the 2 months additional that it would take. So we're money ahead by moving forward with the process to get the appraisal, if I don't have a 30-day or 60-day expiration on the value of the appraisal for us to use it to sell it.
Ron, once we, like with Garrison, once we determined that we wanted an appraisal of Garrison, how long did it take to get that appraisal?
Actually, you had to have 2, so I think Garrison would not be a totally apropos comparison, because, as I recall, your first appraisal was just really more of a sanity check to find out exactly what a reputable appraiser thought the building would be worth as it stood. And I think we also asked that the appraiser to give us an estimate of what the the land upon which the building was situated would be worth, assuming proper demolition and disposal. So that was done, and then there was a time lag before the second determination to go ahead and seek the second appraisal was.
So with your experience, how long does it usually take for an appraiser to, at once?
It's a good market right now, and I don't want to commit to the 2 or 3 that are most likely.
But I mean, is it a month?
People to
Is
be
it
invited.
2
I would say
months?
5 weeks.
Pardon me?
4 to 5 weeks.
It took almost 2 months.
Almost 2 months.
From the time of order to the time of completion, it took almost 2 months for them to actually do the work and turn it back into us. So it does take a while.
I was figuring 2 months. And is there, I don't know, maybe there's a discount. Can we do that in the Pleasant View property at the same time?
There won't be a discount. I can say that overall,
But
the
I mean-
costs are probably gonna stay, we won't, I mean, there will definitely be. Yeah, I wouldn't expect a discount, no. But I would say that them knowing the projects ahead would definitely save time, so it may in the end cost a little bit less, but I wouldn't see it probably wouldn't maximize a lot of savings. It would help them out quite a bit, and it would probably save time for us.
Because I noticed that on the agenda, I just throw this in, I noticed that we just have Highland Heights listed, but I believe that we should do something with the 3-acre lot at Pleasant View as well.
Yeah, we discussed that last time, so, but there was a question about the Highland Heights interest, so.
Can I speak to the utilities, just so that everyone knows? The summer months are good at Highland. So it really doesn't cost us a whole lot to maintain Highland during the summer. The security bills are usually about $150 on the high end a month. And then it is a total electric building, and we do keep it very minimal as far as any kind of AC. It's just enough to keep all the pipes good and the Wi-Fi work out there established and working well. So when I look at that, just for the summer months, and I'll compare it to last year. Last year was a pretty average summer. For June through August, the cost was about $3,500 or a little less. So it's not a whole lot per month. If we did want to wait, at least we aren't looking at a tremendous amount of dollars at that point that we would be out. So
I kind of feel like let's move forward with the appraisal personally, for both pieces.
If we lease it, would we still need an appraisal, though?
Possibly not, or probably not. But that's my whole argument, is right now, we're 50-50. You know, this property has been available, it came back on our, I want to say late last fall.
September.
So this property has been on our inventory since we've been allowed to get rid of it since last September. So, I mean, and we've been discussing the interest with the tenant almost since then. So, you know, I guess my argument is either way, if we're 50-50, you know, our proposed tenant could come back in 3 months and say, well, you know, it just isn't going to work out. And I have nothing against Reed. I hope it works out for them, but I think for us to expedite the process, if they come back in September or August and say it isn't going to work, then we're ready to move. We don't have to wait on an appraisal. We don't have to wait an additional 6 weeks or 8 weeks for that stuff to come in and have those expenses, so.
Well, I also think that that we need to be specific with Reed for a timeline, because we just need to know. And so if we would decide to give them, you know, work out, you think you'll know in 3 months? I mean, I think this has been going on a long time, and at some point, we need a timeline. And so that, because we have business to take care of too. So, so I think that regardless of whether we move forward or with the appraisal or don't, we still need we need to communicate regularly with Reed, and we need to talk with them about a timeline. And you know, I don't know whether it would behoove us to perhaps wait until that communication takes place and then put this on the agenda at our next business meeting, maybe at the end of June.
Following that thought of yours, could we do something like communicate with them and say, we are going to plan to do the assessment, not assessment, sorry.
Appraisals, the appraisals.
Appraisal, thank you, in September, unless we hear something from you. I mean, sort of set it up that way so that they understand if they aren't prepared to move forward, then we are moving forward.
I don't think we should wait until September to do the appraisals, though.
Now, September will get
Don't
us
we have to-
into the winter months.
The appraisal will cost us money, so if we don't need to do the appraisal,
I agree with you.
we should, you know, why not wait and do the appraisal when we feel like we've given everybody the best shot to come to a decision?
And we're going to be spending money until then, and then we'll spend the additional money after the length of time that we ask for the appraisal.
But if
To
we-
me, it's a wash.
If we talk about this month by month, I don't know that, I think just communicating with Reed that we are considering, you know, our options as far as our process is concerned, and, you know, getting that feedback back to the board. And I just want to make sure that Reed has been communicated with in an upfront way, and that they know what our thinking and our planning is.
If
And-
I might speak to that, I spoke with Reed on Friday after the meeting on Wednesday. They were very concerned with the meeting Wednesday because it was kind of a shock to them to hear that we were moving in this direction with no prior communication regarding that change to direction. So they have been very good about communication as things have been known. It's been a very lengthy process. They've actually had to send out 3 RFPs, and we all know those just take a lot of time. The project is very big on their level. So in fairness to them, they have been really good to let me know as things have been known where they're at. Now, what that means is they do need some more time. The RFP is due back this summer. They're going to have time to evaluate that. And then they told me that I will know as soon as that decision is made as to where they're going. Whether it's yes or no, this is the last one they have to send. So they have been communicating. And that I need to stress that they have been very good about communicating. The relationship that I have with their representative is excellent. And everything has been very upfront, and they are concerned that they weren't let know ahead. Now,
Well, there wasn't really anything, I mean, I guess communicating with them through our office would be important, but we were just talking about our process. We made no action, took no action, planned to take no action.
right, and I explained that to them, but it was just very it was very surprising that we would even discuss it when they had this pending. I told them no actions were taken, everything is still pending, that we're just looking to the future on possible options. So they do know that, and that communication has been had, but I do know that they'll want to know that
we're going to continue that if we choose to move in that direction. They will want to know that, just for them to know that we're going to follow that.
I thought the only reason we talked about this the last time was because there wasn't communication.
That's why I'm
That we
confused.
tried to communicate.
Right, and
I'm confused because
I wasn't here at the last meeting, so
But
I
we
have to
haven't been
apologize.
communicated
Okay.
with that, I guess, that read.
Anything was moving.
Yes,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so we have to be communicated with, because honestly, in every agenda meeting, at least once a month, either Jeff or I ask about what's going on with Reed, so that we will know how to proceed. So, so it's very important that we do our communication, make sure that our communication internally is doing justice to the process also. So-
I would just say that one thing that's important here is that with this communication, Reed now understands that we would not plan to continue this forever, as they go for additional RFPs. But apparently, if I'm understanding this, this would be the last
Correct.
RFP.
Correct.
So we now would have, I think, as a board, at least some evidence that we would not extend beyond. The RFPs are due in July. So it would seem, just from where I'm sitting perhaps, in this position, that soon after July, we should know the intentions. So I don't know, maybe Susie's recommendation would certainly seem to me to be reasonable.
One other point to consider is the shape that that building will come back to us. If it goes through with Reed and they decide to use the building, the capital projects that they're gonna put into that building, the shape that we'll receive the building back when they're done with it, will be much more valuable than it is today. So as we look at that, we're weighing taxpayers' money, as Jeff has brought up, and rightly so. That's something else to consider, because at the end game, if and when they're done with it, and then we do put it on the market, it's gonna be considerably worth more than it is as it sits today.
Well, so it's not an action item tonight anyway. So
No, it's discussion.
I would entertain the idea of, at the end of June, at our business meeting in June, that this be brought back, and we may know, we may have a little more information.
I think
Updates,
that's reasonable.
Monthly updates would be great.
Well, exactly, and then we will, we'll know how to move. I mean, we'll know what to do. Does that make sense to everybody?
It does to me.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I'll go with the will of the board. I think I think we should get the process going. I think we should have the appraisal, but if will of the board, I mean, we've got people in the community that have expressed interest in buying the building.
Right.
And I don't care.
We have an
it cost-
obligation to our public.
It costs us $4,000 a month as an average to maintain it. Now, by us getting an appraisal and spending $4,000 to be ready to move, to me, is a acceptable expense. But if the will of the board is to prolong that until July or August, then I'll go with that.
With the fact that Karen did say that the total last year wasn't 4,000 a month, it was quite a bit lower.
3,500 for the
For
whole
those
summer.
months.
Mhm.
Yeah, with that in mind also.
Okay. We are ready for our second public commentary. Rod, you wish to speak?
You have 30 seconds left, Rod.
I like that.
Okay, back on the Highland Heights thing. Okay, the school corporation is not in business to be leasing or owning property. If Reed wants it, okay, it's pretty obvious I want to buy that too. If Reed wants it, they buy it. Get the appraisals done, get it on the market, and get the bid process going. Yes, you have a right to the taxpayers that built that building in the first place. Mr. Terrell, I do agree that it will probably come back a little bit more in value, but not that much for what they want to do. It's still an old school building that's going to be turned into a daycare. So the real value is going to be the land itself, not the building, okay? So you know, I know because in past meetings with Superintendent Borf, before he left, he made the phone call for me. Reed was supposed to make a decision by the end of their first quarter, which was March 31st. If they cannot communicate back here, then assume that they have no interest. Get rid of the excess property. Get it back on the tax roll. If they want it bad enough, let them buy it, and then it goes back on the tax roll. If it stays in your name, it will stay tax exempt.
Well, actually, if Reed buys it, it'll stay tax exempt as well.
No, because it's not a medical, it won't be a medical facility. It won't be used as a medical facility, it will be a daycare. It'll be kind of hard to get that through.
Yeah, it'll be taxable. If Reed's plans go through, it'll get back on the tax rolls.
Right.
Thank you for verifying that. That's it.
Already talked to
Okay.
the assessor.
Thank you, Rod. Appreciate that. Okay. Anybody else wishing to speak? Mrs. Stewart, are you wanting to speak tonight?
We've run the rest off.
I know.
Mrs. Morgeson?
Yes.
Not the public, so I don't know where this is gonna go, but I'm gonna just, I feel like I need to remind you and also inform the public, this Friday, we will be doing an emergency exercise drill at the high school. And so I just want people to be aware that we're gonna kind of keep the public informed, and we'll use the hashtag RHS drill, so they understand when we have Lifeline land with the helicopter, and we have emergency
SWAT
management out
team.
there in the SWAT team. So we'll be doing an inside exercise inside the building, and then we'll also be doing one, appreciate, Sodrel, allowing us to use buses to do a bus exercise as well. So just wanna make you aware in case you get any phone calls, and then make the public aware there'll be a lot of activity around here between 11 and 3 o'clock on Friday.
Thanks. Okay, board reports, old business. I want to say to the board that our retreat is scheduled for June the 25th. You all should have emailed to you the board self-evaluation that Michael Adamson sent from ISBA.
Did that come today?
It did come this evening. And so if you would we're just doing it the way we did it last year, where you go in and pull that up and fill it out, and you send it directly to Michael Adamson. So, and I think I asked you to do that by like June 5th. Thank you, Kelly. So that he will have time to do his calculations and prepare sharing with us how we fared. So he will be working with us from like 10 to 12. Then we will continue that retreat under the direction of our very able Dr. Poindexter in the afternoon.
I'll wear my old hat again.
Yes, yes.
Tell you what you can do and not do.
Okay.
We're gonna have conversation before, so.
She's getting assertive here with us, so.
Smile on her
Stepping
face
into
when
my
she
new
said-
role.
Yeah. And the other thing that I have, I guess, I probably should have done in the celebrations, today was the last day of school for our students.
Yes.
And our teachers will be on Friday. And I just want to thank both our staff and our students for an exceptional year. And there's just something kind of sad about now, probably most teachers aren't thinking that right now, but
Neither
as
are
a
the
retired
students.
teacher, and the students
not
probably
being
aren't either, but it was always kind of sad for me to say goodbye to those students. And
This year flew. I mean,
Yes.
every year seems to just get faster, and then
I
we
agree
start
with
again
that.
at the beginning of August, so.
I mean, we could probably sit here for the next hour and name all of the accomplishments and the great things that took place throughout the school system this year. And so we're going to start ramping up for a new year, right, Mr. Terrell?
Absolutely.
And so we'll be ready to go on August the 4th. August the 3rd. Thank you, Mrs. Stewart, for reminding us.
Fourth is fifth and eighth graders. Is that right?
So lots of summer opportunities,
Sorry.
obviously, are going to be happening. So anyway, I just wanted to tell everyone, thank you, thank you.
Mrs. Morgeson?
Yes.
Could I explain these little?
That would be
Yes, we're ready
good.
for that, yes.
As you all know, I just got back from a trip to Greece, and I thought of you while I was gone, and one of the things that I became fascinated with are these kamboli. It's the Americanized Greek way of saying the name of these, but it translates to worry beads. And it is almost like having your own little stress ball. You know, it's something to sort of have you play with and mess with. One of the hostesses at a home-hosted dinner that I got to go to said because I noticed she had them hung on her kitchen cabinet, and I said, how do you use these? And she said when she has to go to the grocery store, if she needs 8 items, she counts out 8 beads. And then as she goes through the grocery store, every time she picks something up, she flips one of the beads. And then if she gets out, so she's near the end and she still has 2 or 3 things left, and it helps her remember that, yes, there's still a couple more things that she'd intended to pick up. So that's a sort of constructive use for them. But it also is fairly common to see people just sitting having their coffee and sort of playing with them, and so I thought that you could all use a little stress reliever, and
Yeah,
so
thank you so much.
brought you some Greek worry beads.
Thank you so
And
much.
Mr. Mays, this set is for you, because I know you have your worries too.
And we would like hooks put under the table.
For our worry beads.
When you're on the chair.
Good idea.
Go, Dixie, go.
And the 3 at the end of the table need to leave theirs.
Yeah. Oh, no.
That's right.
As a
Leave
very-
your worries behind.
As a retiree, I know that you don't leave all of your worries behind, so there you go.
Well, thank you.
Very nice.
Thank you.
We're ready for our upcoming meeting and events.
Upcoming meeting and events. I think we'll certainly have some reports coming with a few reductions in staff, not too many, we hope. Some changes in personnel. But there's nothing pressing at the moment that is on the agenda, so I think we can.
Don't worry, there will be.
There will be, for sure, yeah. Yeah. But pretty routine stuff right now, I think, which is nice.
Okay, great.
Yeah, Todd will appreciate that for a month.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's good.
I will say that we have delivered, we will have delivered by tomorrow 10 drift letters, 1 letter to a person who's on a temporary contract, and we have displaced 4 teachers, for which we have positions. But the statute's a little bit different now. In the past, we would bring a list of names to the board, and that would be published in the paper, and then it was explained to me this way. We bring the list to the board, and then the rights of the teachers kicked in terms of they could request a meeting. Now, we deliver the letters, their rights kick in first, and they can request meetings with the superintendent and with you, and then we bring names to the board. So it may be the second board meeting in June. And so by that time, the nice thing is, by that time, it may very well be that we won't have as many.
Good, I hope so.
We got 3 more people moving on today.
Yeah, and I encouraged Alicia to work with Kelly, and I see she's left, but with respect to reduction in force, there is no time limit stated in the statute by which the teacher has to request first a conference with the superintendent and then a conference with the board. So within reason, we encourage them to wait, because the longer they wait, the better our crystal ball will be as to what possible vacancies might be, have been created by subsequent resignations or whatever. So with that being said, though, the statute does say that once the conferences are held by, and it speaks to the individual teacher, with the superintendent and conceivably with the board, then the board has to act at its next public meeting after the conference. So it's possible they could, although I hope not, could trickle in more than one event. You know, you might have to have a couple of action items and a couple of consecutive meetings. Hopefully not. Hopefully that's a possibility.
Do the displaced teachers, do they know where they are going to be assigned?
They will tomorrow morning. They will. We always try to get volunteers, and we had a potential of a volunteer or two, and so we wanted them to get through their awards days today, so. We'll let them know first thing in the morning.
It's always a hard time moving and packing and, you know, that kind of thing, so.
You know, I have to say, the new teachers were, for the most part, they were expecting, because we've had conversations at the board level and when we had new teacher meetings. And several of them said, well, thank you. And I said, you don't have to thank me for bringing this kind of letter. But they were appreciative of the fact that we were all trying to be sensitive.
Yeah, it's not something you want to hear about over an email or a letter mailed to you or whatever. So thank you for doing that. Press conference. Anyone from the press? Okay. How about a bell ringer?
Bell ringer. Well, you know, what I appreciate so much, and I hadn't even realized these three are sitting together, so we have to be careful where we seat people in the future here, I guess. It just occurred to me.
Just falling off the end.
To me. But the only one that's gotten a little break in the last week probably has been me, because Todd's here to kind of help think things through. But with Mark and Barb and Alicia, they have just worked tirelessly, and I see they're having to do that all the way through. So I cannot imagine finding more dedicated staff.
You're here.
Ring the bell.
Adjourn.